Welcome to your weekly market update. It's the week of July 12th. Nikki, how's it going?
Things are going pretty okay. So we got some CPI numbers yesterday that were um, indicative of inflation lowering more than what was predicted. When this happens, this actually helped mortgage interest rates bounce back from the prior uptick due to the Strait of Hormuz being closed again. So we've kind of had some volatility in the market surrounding the Iran situation and surrounding, inflation and things of that nature. So it was really nice to get kind of a bump back from those inflation numbers and the market responding favorably. Mortgage interest rates are into the mid sixes. You can get down into the lower sixes with some buy downs, but I would be expecting about mid sixes right now. I also wanted to do some research as we are halfway done through the year with home sales. And so I was pulling up just some information in general, comparing last year to this year from a home sales standpoint and from an inventory standpoint, and kind of some unique changes in the market that we don't often see. So we have seen an increase in inventory in the month of June as far as homes being listed for sale. But the interesting part is that for the homes that are listed for sale, they are actually being listed about 2 to 2.5% lower than what those same homes were listed at a year ago. So basically what this means, it doesn't necessarily indicate that there's going to be a market crash. It just seems to indicate that because there's being an increase of inventory of homes that are listed, sellers are being a little bit more realistic as to what they're going to list their house for sale as, and lowering those listing prices, especially taking into consideration the mortgage interest rates tending to stay in the mid six range, for at least a year now. It's starting to, really put more realistic expectations on what those home values actually are. With that being said, the actual sale price for homes in the month of June is up 1.2% than where it was last year. So a little bit of what seemingly is conflicting data, but home sales are up as far as the price of that the home actually was up 1.2% than where it was last year. So even though it's being listed a little lower, it's either going over asking or there's just a slight increase in that demand, which has been nice. I also want to talk about just kind of a unique thing that's happening right now. Both, a lot of the business that I do is in the Minnesota, Arizona, and Florida markets. If we were to take normal comparison of an Arizona market, Minnesota market, and Florida, and they have kind of three these drastically different markets in the idea that, when the market is up, Arizona's up, and so is Florida. When the market's down, Arizona and Florida are way down, whereas Minnesota kind of tends to ebb and flow with those markets, but not doesn't have as much of a, gap in between. Like when it's up, it's up, when it's down, it's down. Whereas Arizona and Florida do. A lot of that has to do with the kind of just the vacation or the second home nature of Arizona and Florida, and people kind of just saying like, where if people are going to buy second homes, it's going to be when the market's good, things of that nature. So, but what was really interesting to me is to see that in both the Minnesota market and the Arizona market, the cost of the house is actually cheaper in Arizona most of the time than it is in Minnesota. This affects which homes are selling the fastest under a normal market strategy. But right now, as in both markets, the 400,000 or under is obviously selling the fastest, whereas the $400,000 to $600,000 mark is like the second fastest. And anything once you start to get over that 700,000, when homes are kind of in the market. With
Mhm.
that from in Arizona in that low under in that 400 range. So what I mean by that is for homes that are listed at 400 or under in Minnesota, they are only taking 25 to 35 days to sell. Whereas in Arizona, they're taking 35 to 45 days to sell. That may not seem like much of a difference, but it is kind of something that we don't normally see. In that Arizona market, those homes that are 400 or under usually sell pretty quickly. So Minnesota's really having a run right now as far as home sales go. In that 400 to $600,000 price range, Minnesota homes are selling between, I want to say, I had it written down here, so I had known most of it, but memorized most of it. But it's okay. So for in Minnesota, the 400 to 600 is 35 to 40 days, whereas in Arizona, that same price range is taking up around 60 days to sell. So they are saying that some of that is because there's an increased inventory in Arizona in general, but it's really interesting to have Minnesota actually outpace the home sale number of days on market than Arizona. That's something that we don't often see. So things are looking good. Things are turning around in that Minnesota market, but just an interesting little, tidbit as far as how markets can change and how different, aspects of, second homes versus primary residence versus cost of homes, things of that nature, and how that can really shift a market pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you had mentioned too, we're halfway through the year. So I encourage all the agents listening to this call as well to revisit your goals. If you did year-long goals or even quarter goals, where you're at. And we're also about the halfway point of July. So I always say on the 15th of every month, it's really good to see where you're at for each of your monthly goals and revisit those. And if you need to make adjustments, make those. If you need to double down on some activities to get that pipeline a little bit more robust, do that as well. But and I don't, you can speak to Arizona, Nikki, but I know a lot of people think that winter is a slow time here, and I really haven't experienced that much. I know the team that I was on once, we actually doubled down on our lead gen from October to end of January. And one year we took
Oh, wow.
46 listings and I had 13 buyers the following spring. So, I mean, as other agents are meeting their goals and taking a lot of time off at the end of the year for family, just done working, that's when a lot of agents, you can really take advantage of that and double down and get going. So I've sold homes on Christmas Eve. And I've had a handful or two of closings in January. So I just encourage you
Yeah.
to really look at the second part of the year, look at where you're at on goals. And if you need any help with goals, or if you're not on goal and you need some strategy, look me up. I'm here and happy to help in any way. Yeah. Good.
Absolutely.
Well, Nikki, we appreciate you showing up even as you're on vacation and traveling. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And where do we find you if anyone has any questions on today's call?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Mortgages from MN to AZ. You can call or text at 952-484-1584, or you can email me at nikki@kevnikgroup.com.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Nikki. You have a great
Okay.
rest of your vacation, and we'll see you
Yeah.
next week, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.